Can you name me 5 dark-skinned black female singers who have had the same success as Stormzy and Dave? I'll wait.
Cricket.
To live a good life. I'm not about the struggle. Do you care about black women? Or just a certain type? I'm not sure. Like, can you elaborate? Then I'm seeing what they're saying. I'm like, you man are not really saying much. You're not saying
They're not allowed to. Hi guys, welcome to Black Girls Brunch. Thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't already, please do click the subscribe button and like this video. I'm really excited because today we have the wonderful Estee Blue. So Estee is an artist who's been supported by the Roundhouse and Help Musicians. She's also been featured on NME and Kiss FM. She was also awarded Mobo's first ever Artist Development Fund. And if that wasn't enough, she has recently completed her master's researching black women in music. Wow, that's a lot. It's like a lot. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited. I've got lots of questions for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I don't know what to, because there's just so much. There's so much that you do, multi-talented. So we're just going to get into it. I think I want to start with why music.
Ooh,
so
that's a good one.
what made you want to take this path? Like, yeah, why music?
I'd say like the journey started when I was about 6. So I remember watching, like my mum was a huge Whitney Houston fan. So I just remember her listening to Whitney Houston's albums, and I remember Prince of Egypt, which was a film that came out like mid-90s, had been released on VHS, right, cassette, right? And I remember watching it and listening to the soundtrack. And there was a duet between Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey called When You Believe, right? And I remember also getting the cassette, the actual cassette to it. And I was obsessed. I was obsessed with that, and I wanted to be like Whitney Houston. I think she was beautiful. She was an amazing vocalist, just such a talented singer, and I wanted to be just like her. And my mum put me into gospel choir when I was 6, right? And that's when it all started, really. And I think since then I did like the school talent shows, the choirs, but I never really took music seriously. I never really thought that it was, you know, a space for me, especially like as a teenager. I wasn't seeing a lot of black girls in music, so I didn't really feel like it was for me. But it wasn't until like, you know, I learned a bit more about jazz. I kept up with my music knowledge. I kept up with like music training, and I went to uni and I actually studied French and Italian for the first time I went to uni. I've done 3 degrees now. So yeah, it's a lot. But yeah, the first time I went to uni, I spent some time abroad because my degree was French and Italian, right? And I found myself not actually wanting to go into anything to do with languages, because my time abroad was quite like lonely, and I found myself on my own quite a bit. But the thing that kept me solid and gave me, I don't know, it just kept me going was music. So like writing music. And then when I came back to England, I was like, this is what I want to do. And yeah, that journey started, you know, 5 years ago, 2015. And I was like, right, okay, let's try this thing. And I gave myself a year. I was just like, right, if it doesn't work out, I'm just gonna go corporate and do something like that, because, you know, anything to do with a creative career or the arts is hard. So when things started happening, I was like, okay, like let me keep on it. Like I did some arts development training. I got some opportunities, like you mentioned, being supported by the Roundhouse, who were like my first cheerleaders. Absolutely amazing opportunities to open up for some incredible artists and just develop myself and get comfortable on stage, like playing with a live band and rehearsing and understanding like what that means. You know, as an artist, you have to develop, you have to make sure that your voice is good, that you know your lyrics, you know that you're, you know, in the studio, and all these different things I was just learning. So it's like from being the age of 6, I'd say I was a fan of music, but I think from the age of probably like 21 onwards, I was like actually trying to do that artist development process and just, you know, making my little steps.
I think that's interesting there as well, especially when you talk about so strongly about artist development, because I do think for a lot of people it looks like a snap rise to fame, or like a snap thing, oh, I want to be a singer, I want to be a rapper, so I'm going to do it. But there is obviously that, like, yeah, you should just do it, but also really honing your craft and really being not humble, but realizing that you don't know everything.
No,
and
absolutely.
so
No, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm 5 years into this journey, and I'm just like, right, like, so the EP that I'm currently like putting together and stuff like that, I'm like, right, we need to get right back to the basics, like vocal training 101, making sure that, you know, in the actual recording, for example, like, because recording and singing live are two different things.
See,
right? They're two different things, and this is what, like, some people may not notice. Like, there's some artists that you listen to on a record and they sound exactly the same, and that is what you want to be as an artist. You want to sound exactly like, not even exactly like the record, even better, to be honest, because live is where it's at, right?
Yeah.
So I found myself, like, when I was doing the stuff with the Roundhouse and stuff, I was really good live, but when I was going into the studio, I couldn't capture that same feeling and emotion, and it meant that I just needed to work. I just needed to work harder. That was just it, you know. And even some of the records, like, I've put records out and I've taken them down because I'm just like, afterwards I'm like, no, this is not it. This is not it. At the time I was like, yeah, this is banging, and afterwards I was like, the mix. I was like, excuse me, whatever. Yeah, archive. You know, what's it? Limited edition. Yeah.
You know,
get it while it's gone.
Yeah, it is what it is. No, that's really interesting. Thank you for that. Obviously, you're a beautiful black woman.
Oh,
so
as you are too.
In any industry, there's, like, you know, challenges, but also like great things as well. But I just want to ask you, in your personal opinion, what is it like being a black woman in the music industry? Which I know is a big question.
What a question!
But I'd love
Can we
you
have a sip? Can we have a sip before we get into it? Cheers.
Cheers! Oh my gosh, yeah, we didn't even do that. Ad break.
Right. Let's get into it.
Talk to me. Like, be real.
Right. So I would say being a black woman in the music industry is like being a black woman in the world, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But things are just a little bit more heightened in terms of the experiences of misogynoir, you know? And for anyone who doesn't know what that means, it's racism and sexism combined together, you know? That's what it is. Yay! And we have to deal with it. It really, like, it's really in your face, right? So what you mentioned, that I was doing some research for my master's. So I recently completed a music business management degree number 3.
Sorry, can you repeat? You recently completed a business music management degree.
Master's.
Can we just give you snaps? Because education, we love to, highly decorated, yes. We love to see it.
Yeah, so I completed that degree this summer.
Well done, congrats.
And thank you. And my research project was on the experiences of darker skinned black women in R&B soul music and their experiences with racism, sexism and colorism, as well as the intersection of Afrofuturism and technology, and whether that provides a kind of escape or a way to circumvent racism, sexism and colorism.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think I even look back at it, I was just like, are you alright? Like, why are you choosing these subjects? Like,
so
COVID-19, all this situation, and you want to discuss this? But I was like, yeah, because it's time.
It's
more than time. It's more than time.
Wow. And so what did you, that's another question. I actually have questions about your master's, but talk to me. What came about?
Oh man, like, do you know what? Even that piece of research that I did, it's like, it was 12,000 words, right? And we were just cutting the surface.
Wow. Yeah.
That's,
of course. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I could definitely have written twice, 3 times as much, because we didn't even, like, I didn't even get into, like, black feminism. I didn't get to do media analysis and all these things because of the word count, and there were so many other people I wanted to talk to. But my major findings was kind of like what I just discussed, like, experience of black women in any industry is not dissimilar from the experience of black women in real life, right? And the things we have to go through, being invisible, you know, in life, but also being hyper visible at the same time, and the challenges that come with that. There was lots of different things, kind of like the erasure of black women, so that plays into the invisibility aspect. but then also who is being marketed as the black woman, right? And it tends to be women of mixed heritage,
Right.
who may identify as mixed or may identify as black. Like, it's, I guess if you're of mixed heritage, you can identify how you choose.
Yeah, of course.
But I also don't feel that having a mixed heritage identity should replace the black female identity,
course,
because
yeah.
it doesn't replace the black male identity. You know, and there was a talk that I did over summer, which was in response to the music industry's Blackout Tuesday, and I was on a panel with Keith Harris and Malika Sani, two very esteemed music, business professionals. And I was just saying, can you, to everyone, can you name me 5 dark-skinned black female singers who have had the same success as Stormzy and Dave? I'll wait.
Crickets.
I'll wait.
Tumbleweed.
And I said, there are none.
Yikes.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that also the conversation of like being an artist as well, so I'm slightly diverting from my research, but like in terms of being an artist, like what validates an artist? Is it are you an artist because you're signed to a major label, or are you an artist because you're born an artist? And I was really actually humbled to be a part of this conversation, because as an independent artist, I think there still is this thing like, oh, you're not a real artist because you don't have that commercial cosign, but we're not actually understanding, what does that commercial cosign mean?
Yeah.
What does it mean? What does it mean for the integrity of the art form? What does it mean for black art in general? And this comes back to my research. I got to talk to so many amazing women, and I can't like disclose who I was able to speak to, but one of the really like esteemed researcher, she was kind of talking about like she's interested in the alternative, because she doesn't believe that the capitalist corporate structure can really support black femininity and womanhood, because they want to mold us into their Western notions of femininity, which we just don't fit. It's just not for us. So we sit outside of that. So she was interested in what are the alternative methods for black women to be authentic and to exist. And I truly think it's within independence, and I understand not everyone can do that, but I do understand in order for us to be truly authentic in what we do, we have to have independence, because it's not just independence of your art form, but it's also independence of your mind, it's independence of your creative process. Do you understand? Like, you are free. Like, that's why when I have this conversation to you, you say be real, and I'm like, I can be real. I can lay it all out on the table. Whereas when I'm looking at the artists who are signed and I'm seeing what they're saying, I'm like, you man are not really saying much. You're not saying
They're not allowed
much.
to.
But like, why?
Yeah.
Because when you think about like our biggest artists, and I'm talking like 60s, 70s, you talk about the Nina Simone's, the Billie Holidays.
Yeah,
okay, American, on the American spectrum, but even Stevie Wonder, they spoke about real issues. When you talk about Black Lives Matter or anything to do with the oppression of African peoples, like, they'll really get into it.
Yeah.
But I'm still waiting to hear something. I'm waiting to hear something, and I'm not hearing anything. I'm just hearing, Black Lives Matter. Yeah, they do, but beyond that, is it males that you're interested in? And do you care about black women? Or just a certain type? I'm not sure. Like, can you elaborate? Straight? Gay? Like, are you in it?
You're
Are you
firing
willing?
shots. You're firing shots.
Listen, it's time to go. Nobody spends a year doing a master's or 3 years, more than 3 years, being like, I guess, like, in terms of my education, I think I've had to do that because I've seen how the landscape for black British females is very small. So I've had to expand my skills elsewhere to be able to make a living, and make a good living, because I'm not interested in just surviving.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I like nice things, you know what I mean? I need to live a good life. Listen, I'm not trying to struggle, because what that happens when you're in that, I guess, that mindset or that stressed response is that you'll take anything.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in that. I really don't believe. I think creativity is such a beautiful gift in whatever way it manifests, and you need resources. You need financial resources, you need the time, you need everything to kind of work together to be able to execute the vision that you see for yourself.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in the music landscape, we know that opportunities for black women who are of mine and your complexion, who are in the majority globally, they just don't exist. right?
Yeah.
They don't exist.
No, you're right.
And it's embarrassing.
It's hard.
embarrassing.
No, it is hard, and even if you look at like public campaigns and just whatever you look at, we'd never see
We're invisible.
Representation. You know, my little sister's watching an advert about musicians or what, you know, I think, you know, that popular sports brand did
That
an
shall
advert.
not be named.
And when I think about, you know, who they have to look up to and who they it is really sad. So I completely agree with you. And I think it's interesting what you said about independence, because I think with that comes like control,
Yeah,
or I guess
absolutely.
you have control over how you look, what you say, what you do. Whereas if you are maybe signed or, you know, under somebody else's control management, you don't have that freedom. So I think that's where the kind of imbalance comes.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's like, even for me, I didn't realise that people didn't really understand the difference. Like, what does it mean to be an independent artist versus being signed? And, you know, I guess everyone's situation is different, but I think for someone like me, it makes so much sense for me to maintain my independence until I get into a situation where I can negotiate the best terms for myself with a, you know, in a situation that makes sense for me. So it's not to say that I will never sign with a label or whatever. It just has to be the right conditions. And I have been presented with contracts. Do you know what I mean? I got scouted for two of our biggest television shows 3 times.
Wow.
You know, in the space of 2 years, and I said no because I didn't understand the contract and I didn't understand why they wanted to tie me in for so long. And I was just like, I never want to be, oh, that was the girl from X show. Absolutely. I think that would be I'd rather die. I'd rather die. I'm so sorry. I can never.
Wow. No, I hear you. I hear you. And there's bravery in that as well, as you say no, because people are presented with things. Like, I remember I was presented with an opportunity and I turned it down, and everyone's like why did you do that? But I think there's a bravery in like knowing yourself, knowing your worth, and knowing that's not my end goal. Like this is my 5-year, 10-year plan, and this is not going to get me there.
For sure.
It's really brave. So well done to you.
Thank you. No, and I think well done to us, because I think what it is that like we can't like accept scraps.
Come on, if you don't
don't accept scraps. Like, and people don't get it, and also there's that thing of like, oh, you're a woman, you should just accept any opportunity, or you're a black woman, oh, these don't come by too often. And it's just like, well, let them pass by, innit? Like, if it's meant for me, it's meant for me. Yeah. If it's not, then it's just not. And I think that, integrity, has to be a part of the conversation. And I think that, I guess that's something we share as black women. We just won't shift. And you think about yourself, you think about your mum, your aunties, your grandparents, like there's just no. It's just no. If it's a no, it's a no. There's no kind of going around, and and that's something. And that's something that I hold on to. And there's people that would say, oh, you may be missing a good opportunity, but I just believe what is for you is for you. Yeah,
I agree. I remember my friend Ruth. She said, it's great, but I want excellent. And I was like, well, I can't argue with that.
Exactly.
Like, get your excellence. That's what it is. So, however you define your identity and what that is, how does that influence your music?
That's really interesting.
Or does it?
That's an interesting question. I would say that when I was starting my journey, when I was 6, I was just a fan of music, and it was just something I liked to do. So I never really saw myself in my music. If I'm honest, I more copied, and that's what you do to learn, right? You copy, and then you start to develop your own style. And I think that even when I decided to become an artist and take this journey 5 years ago, I was still, maybe not copying, but I was still just developing.
Yeah, of course.
And I think as I came to, I guess, understand more about, I guess my blackness, because that is also a journey that we go on. My black womanhood, my femininity also. I'm of Congolese descent. Belgium is in there as well, but just, by way, But as I started to kind of understand my identity, I started to evolve my music. And in the last track I released, it's called Forever, and it's more dancehall inspired track with deeper vocals. So what happened as well is that I think about 2 or 3 years ago, I had like a vocal injury, and that was like terrible. I was overusing my voice, and it was just a really like stressful situation. And I got through some vocal training and like, you know, was able to like rehabilitate my voice, and just actually decided not to just to drop my larynx when I sing. So you will notice that when I talk, my voice is a lot deeper, and when I sing, my voice is a lot deeper, and that's like my preferred choice now, just so that I don't put extra strain on my vocals. But I noticed that was a different, you know, side of me in terms of how I sound, my tone, and then also in terms of the musicality. I was, I guess, connecting more to the music I like to listen to, because, you know, if anyone's listening to Congolese music, like, you're not going to sit down when you listen to it. You're going to get up and dance, right? And dancehall as well, you know, growing up in London, like, the Jamaican diaspora have had such a huge impact on global music, right? Yes. And I wanted to make music that just made me feel good, but it was a journey. Do you understand what I mean? Because when I first started, it was more neo soul, it was more jazz, and then it became a bit more experimental, and I think it's still in that phase. But I think what I'm starting to realize is that, like, I have a unique identity, as everyone does. And I want to hear Congo in my music. I want to hear, you know, me speaking French sometimes in my lyrics, because my mum speaks French, and that's like, I grew up speaking French. Do you see what I mean? So these are layers to my identity that, you know, people don't know, and actually, why don't I put that in my music? Do you see what I mean? And then also when we're talking about, you know, black womanhood or just life, like, not everything has to be about love. Not everything has to be about a romantic male relationship. Do you see what I mean?
Of course,
I can talk about other things. So I think as I've grown as a woman, I've started to be able to write more about that in my music, and that's something that's still ongoing.
But I think that's really exciting, and I know I keep saying it, but also brave, because obviously you've got your fan base, you've got people who love your music. So the fact that you are happy and like willing to evolve and to change, and you've got a different sound or a slightly different sound, you're going to try something new. Like, people wouldn't do that. People would be like, this is what I'm known for, this is what, you know, my fans like, this is what I'm going to stick with. But the fact that you're like willing to evolve like that, I think that's great.
Thank you.
And it's exciting because it's like, okay, so where's she going to be, if not even in like 5 years, next year, or even in 6 months? Like, what songs are we going to get? Do you know what I mean? It's like, we can like grow with you.
Absolutely. So and that's what I want. And I think that also, like, when I think about like the artists that I like and that we all have those things where, like, oh, I like the first album. Oh, I like this song. But you've got to understand, like, as human beings, we grow.
Yeah, of course.
And what I was singing about 5 years ago, like, I'm in a completely different space right now. So the music that I make has to reflect that. But I'm hoping that people are still sticking with me on this journey.
Well, I'm here, so that's what I'm joking. No, I'm sure they're fans of you and they're fans of the work you do. So I think that they should be supportive of whatever you know try to do. And yeah, I think it's good. I'm excited to see.